unlocking happiness, and now we're in the next step, which is to do the inner work. So if you've started from the beginning, you'll see that the first thing that you can do to find your happiness again is to create a safe space for yourself. And then once you do that, you really want to address your feelings and emotions and situations and really look at them and become, you know, in tune with what's actually going on in your life. The third step was getting help, you know, a support system, a coach, a mentor, a counselor. So because once you start looking at your feelings, you may realize that there's some things that are, you know, deeply wrong in your life and you want to make change, and getting help always is beneficial. Then it's making the change, you know, separating yourself either from a bad job, finding something new, a bad relationship, ending it, a community that you're living in that is not bringing you to your best and highest self possible. You might want to consider making a move. Now, when you go into the next step, I want to address the fact that all those things are not going to make you happy. They're going to help, because if you had situations in your life that were actually making you unhappy, you're going to see it now and you'll be more aware of it, but that's not going to bring you happiness. The real happiness starts with this step, is step 5. Sorry, my chicken has just gotten, I think, attacked by a cat, or like annoyed by a cat. But anyway, excuse that little interruption. The 5th step, I'm going to have to pause the video and see what's going on. Excuse that interruption. Had a minor chicken emergency. But anyway, so doing this inner work is really what step 5 is all about. And, you know, if you've heard of shadow work, you know that that's like looking at the parts of you that you dislike or can't stand the most in your character, you know, how you behave, and addressing them, either accepting them or working on changing them. And step 5, really, you really want to, you know, to gain happiness and this joy and bliss on a day-to-day basis. It begins and ends with believing in yourself and loving yourself unconditionally. The amount you give of love that you give to others, you should be giving yourself on a daily basis. And if you're not, then you really realize what's going on when you are doing this inner work. And how can you believe in yourself when you don't love yourself unconditionally? So it's really a challenging stage to go in, but it's well worth it. And I will warn you that sometimes when you are doing the inner work, you know, past things will come up from the past that you have to address. And there's some steps for doing that. You know, part of it is being self-aware and aware of your feelings, and really look back at what happened, either whether it's trauma or situations, it could be another person, what's really creating a sense of unhappiness in your life, and really focus on it, look at it, and understand it. You don't want to, you actually want to recall it right now. You know, a lot of people say, well, don't worry about the past, let it go. Well, you can't let it go until you repair it inside yourself. So you really want to recall the event, look at it from all different angles, your role in it, other people's roles, things you may have done that you're not proud of in your life. And you want to start addressing all these different situations and traumas and parts of your life that you've probably just pushed aside and pushed deep down, but they're still holding on to your soul. So you want to address them and get them out. So once you start doing that, and if, you know, these situations or events, if they're yours, then it's sometimes a little bit harder to forgive yourself. But once you start recalling the event, then you want to try to actually bring up the pain from it and try to go through that pain. Now, crying worked for me. I know a lot of people may like to punch pillows or scream, go to some place where they can just scream it loud. But any way that you can kind of release this pain again in a healthy manner is going to be beneficial, because once you release that pain, then you can try to understand, okay? Understand what's going on, mentally understand. If it was someone who hurt you, you want to think, why did they do this? What would make someone behave this certain way? Or why would someone do this to me? You know, what were their thoughts? You know, put yourself in their position. And that can be hard sometimes. But when you do it, it really encourages growth. And you can also look to yourself, you know, why did I do this? What was going on in my life during this time? And you have to understand it so that you can let it go. So starting to understand it mentally then allows you to understand it spiritually. And that's really where the work comes, the relief from your hard work starts to come in. Spiritual understanding is everything that has happened to you or that you've done has been a blessing in your life, because it's encouraged growth in your consciousness and in your spirituality or sense of self. It somehow made you a better person, hopefully a person that would never do those things again. So you have to give yourself credit for that. You're like, okay, I may have done these bad things, but I've learned my lesson from it, and I will never behave that way again. That's spiritual growth. And also, when you can look at someone else at what they've done and say, this is a blessing. What they did to me has really changed my life for the better. I've grown so much more. And let go of that pain. That's when you have this spiritual understanding of someone else and what they've done to you and see it as a blessing, you can then start to have compassion for them and understand, oh my gosh, the trauma or the person, the character they must be inside to do something like this, feel sorry for them and feel bad for them and say they really come from a place of deep hurt and pain and trauma, and have compassion. Compassion doesn't mean reconnecting or engaging with that person. It means that you understand that they were suffering in order for them to treat you the way that they did. And when you get that deep understanding, that spiritual understanding that this has been a blessing for me, my life is better now, I'm coming out on top of this. And then also, wow, their sense of self must be low, their sense of self must be filled with self-hatred, or because, you know, people who are happy treat other people well. People who are unhappy treat other people badly. So you have to think and have compassion. This person must be very unhappy with their life. So you're able, and you may look at your own life, and when you did those things and say, I was extremely unhappy. I know I look back at the things that I've done that I've had to forgive myself for, horrible things. A suicide attempt, an affair. I stayed in a relationship that was physically abusive. You know, then as of late, being in a relationship that was demeaning to me somehow, a narcissistic relationship where I was giving a lot more than I was getting back. I had to face all those things and other things as well that I've done in my life before I could move forward to believe in myself again and love myself again. And it wasn't easy. It's taken me months to do this with counseling and with help, to where I've gotten to the place where I can say, wow, I believe in myself again. I love myself. And more each day, I'm working to give myself the unconditional love that I have given to others in my life, but never, when I realized, never gave myself. It was an eye-opener. So releasing and letting go, having compassion for yourself and forgiveness and understanding for yourself and for those that have hurt you, or events that have happened in your life that have hurt you, really then allows you to open up to this happiness so that you can become the greatest person you've ever been, because you've forgiven yourself, you've forgiven others, and you are truly unlocking that happiness in your life. And remember, this is when you set up boundaries. This is when you realize your sense of self, your importance, your worthiness. I'm not saying that in any kind of selfish or egotistical way. The beauty of yourself and who you are, who your soul is, a person who is able to forgive, who is able to be compassionate and understanding. None of those are selfish characteristics. They are very open and loving and generous characteristics, because you're not only doing it to yourself, you're doing it to others. And sometimes you actually do it to others before you do it to yourself. But if you truly want to become your best self and find happiness in your life, that is what needs to be done, that inner work, that shadow work, that, really facing your past, facing events and situations and trauma and bad relationships and mistakes and anything that you haven't faced as of yet, facing that and getting rid of it, letting it go off your shoulders. I think of the times when I was younger and I was so carefree and full of life, and I just believed in this beauty of the world, and I loved nature. And then things started happening, and you start hearing, oh, the rainforests are dying and people are chopping them down, and then you hear of civil rights movement and the inequality because of the color of a person's skin, and slowly and steadily all these things pile up on your back, and you start looking at the world and at yourself in a different way. And really, this step, this inner work, to me is a letting go of all that, all these bad things that you've seen and that have happened in your life that have just been piled on your back. You don't even realize you're carrying them because you've decided to push them away and, just let them go without dealing with them. When you start to deal with them and really see events and situations and relationships and patterns in your life for what they are, you're able then to say, I need to see what happened and what was going on in my life during this time. I want to look at it more closely. I want to understand why it happened. And I want to see that as growth and as true blessing, because it's led me to who I am today. And then you start to believe in yourself again and give yourself unconditional love. And it's a magical thing, because that is what happiness is all about. And once you are happy with yourself, then that happiness just comes in even more abundance to the people around you. You just give it out more freely. You're not fearful. You're not doubtful. You are so sure of yourself and what you're capable of. And you start to see the world and your life and yourself through different eyes, through the eyes of what I call the divine, through God, and how He or she or whatever you believe that divine source is sees us as a soul, as a human, and as an individual, and what we can do for this world. And really, that this step has been the greatest thing that has happened in my life, embracing my spirituality, embracing forgiveness and compassion and true belief in myself and unconditional love of self. Because I just say, every day, how can I love others or expect someone to love me if I don't love me and I don't love myself? And, that was a thing in my unhappiness for so long. It was like I gave all this love and this unconditional love to everyone else. And I always wondered, why is that not coming back to me? Because I never gave it to myself. And how can I expect to attract something or to gain something in my life from others when I'm not even giving it to myself? So opening up and remembering and recalling my past experiences and really dealing with them and looking at the pain and whatever happened throughout different time periods where I've made some horrible, grave mistakes and had some horrible things happen to me as well. Looking back on those things and saying, they were really blessings. They were blessings. I know it may be hard for some of you to see some events and traumatic events that have happened to you as blessings, but one thing you can say is you survived through them, you've grown, you've learned, your consciousness has grown from it. Okay, now saying unconsciousness, you need to get it out from your subconscious. You need to release that and then start believing in yourself again and your capabilities and really working on yourself so that you can be the best person that you can be. Why? Because it's so needed in the world today. It's needed for you, it's needed for humanity, it's needed for your community, it's needed for your family, it's needed for the plants and animals, it's needed for the planet itself. We all need to find this belief in self, this unconditional love of self, because once that opens up, it just opens up a whole new world. where you can wake up every day in gratitude and peace and appreciation and look at the flowers that are here and just find so much beauty and vibrancy in them. And like the chickens, find beauty in that and have that become a part of your life. That's so important. The simple things then become so much more important than other things that are, you know, material. When you find this happiness of self and this complete bliss and peace, you find happiness in the simplicity of life, and then you realize that that really is the miracle that occurs around you every day. Because everyone says, look for the miracle, look for the signs. Well, the miracle is around you. You just have to see it. All the miracles are. They are in life itself, in this planet, in the plants and the animals and the land that we live on, and also in yourself and your soul self and that deep purpose that you have within to make change in your own life and in the lives of others. And happiness, unlocking your happiness, is the biggest step in that direction. So I encourage you to try the steps that I did today. They have changed my life and transformed who I am as a woman, as a mother, as a friend, as a member of my community. And I just live every day with just complete happiness, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. Am I still working on unconditional love of myself? I do every day. I remind myself every day to love myself for who I am and who God made me to be, and find compassion when I don't love myself, and forgive myself for that as well, so that I can move forward and work the next day again of waking up and loving myself and loving my life and loving everything that I see around me. And it's a beautiful thing. So I encourage you to work on your happiness for yourself. It worked for me. The steps that I'm telling, I was guided by the divine to follow those steps, and that's what works for me. Although there are many other things that you can do, I am just sharing what has worked in my life and what has worked for me to really find this sense of happiness and a greater sense of self and purpose. Sending all my love and compassion to you. I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, afternoon, next day, a beautiful life.